Hello again everybody, I hope you're all keeping well and I hope you've had a good Christmas. Happy New Year to you all. We're now just about to get into January, so I'm going to start thinking about sowing some seeds. I've got the seed box out, ready, my fingers are itching to get sowing. I'm going to talk through with you all what I am sowing in January and some things which you can sow as well to get yourself off to a really good head start in the growing season. I live in zone 8B in the UK. It's pretty mild in the UK, as you may know if you live in the UK. So we can get away with planting things pretty early. And there are things which we can plant which require more warmth to get going, like in the greenhouse and polytunnel, which we would start in January to get us off to a head start. Like today, it's really mild at the moment. It's like 12 degrees. And it's been mild throughout most of December, to be honest. It's been a really mild month, minus the first few days of December, which were quite cold. But the rest of the month has been really mild. So much so that the garlic which we planted in the polytunnel is growing really nicely, along with the brassicas which are in there as well. Our elephant garlic outside is growing away nicely too. And our spring bulbs have actually started to sprout and are poking their heads up. So really mild at the moment. It is supposed to turn colder in January, I've heard anyway, so we'll see what happens there. But before we get into the January sowing video, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to all of you who have subscribed to my channel and support me on my YouTube journey. We've just reached 1,500 subscribers. I'm trying to reach 2,000 subscribers, so if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you never miss whenever I upload new videos like this every single week. I'd love to have you part of the little gardening community which I'm trying to create here, so if you could sub, I would really appreciate it, and the support really means a lot. So with all that being said, let's get right into what I'm sowing in January. Right, I've just had to move you so you can see what I've got going on here. We'll move those out of the way. So many different seeds which we're planting here in January. Lots and lots of things to be excited about and keep us busy. Now, there is one thing which I don't have here simply because I've already sown them. I sowed them yesterday, and that is the onions. I've sown 4 different varieties of onions at home, which I'm going to be putting under the grow lights. I'm setting up a grow light system at home on a shelf. I'm just waiting for the shelf to arrive. It should arrive in the next couple of days. I've got my grow lights, and I've sown 9 trays of onions. We really love our onions, such a versatile vegetable to have, and we're trying to be self-sufficient with onions as well. So yes, January is a really good thing to, January is a really good time to get your onions sown. December, you can also sow them in December as well, like I have, anywhere from December. But December, January, February is a good time to get your onion seeds sown. You can probably also get your onion sets in January as well. But to be honest, I'll probably wait until the end of January, possibly even February for those, because they don't take anywhere near as long as onion seeds. So yeah, onion seeds, January, but they're not here. Now, whilst on the topic of onions, when I did my onions last year, I actually sowed my leeks as well alongside them in Boxing Day. I did them on Boxing Day last year. So I did my onions and my leeks together. Bad decision. Because with my leeks, I brought them down to the allotment in February, and we had a really hard frost, quite a lot of freezing days, and the onions and the leeks completely froze. And the leek had already had a good bit of growth on it. It froze, it thought that it was going into winter and then into its second year, and then it thawed out and continued to grow in the spring. And because we had that cold weather in February, the leek thought that it was going into its second year of growth. A leek is a biennial, so its growth cycle is grow in the first year and then flower and produce seed in the second year. Now the leeks which I grew thought they were going into their second year of growth after the frost, and yeah, about 90% of the leeks bolted. So I'm not going to be doing that again. I'm going to be sowing my leeks in March at the very earliest, once all cold weather has passed. Hopefully. We tend to have most of the cold weather in the spring in the UK. It's really, really weird. We have a pretty mild winter, and then the spring ends up being the coldest. Like we could get snow and frost in like April, May sometimes. It's really, really strange. Now, what else are we going to be sowing in January? Well, we've got many different things here. We've got peppers, which we're going to be sowing in January, simply because they take so long to grow. These are going to be under the grow lights at home as well. I'm actually going to be using my heated propagator at home for these. We've got a few different varieties. We've got Ariane, which is the F1 hybrid. We've got Red King, which is another F1 hybrid, and New Ace, which is another F1 hybrid. I don't really grow chilies. We prefer to just grow the sweet peppers. They didn't do very well this year, so I'm going to get them off to a really good head start in January, and we'll see what happens. So peppers and chilies are a good one to get started in January to give you a really good head start. Now we've also got some aubergine seeds. This variety is called Moneymaker, and yeah, we started our aubergines off really early last year, and we got a really good year for aubergines, so I'm going to be doing the same again. So aubergines is another good one to start in January. Now we're also trying some watermelon this year. See what happens with them. It says on the packet February to May, which you can sow it, but I'm going to get these sown in January because watermelons do take a long time to grow. They do take quite a while. Now I'm going to be sowing some peas. This is a dwarf variety of pea called Kelvedon Wonder. They only grow to about 18 inches in height. It says sow from February on these, but I'm going to sow them in January in the greenhouse in module trays, I think, because they're quite a cold hardy crop. And related to the pea, I've got some sweet peas. I really love growing sweet peas. I like making a nice display of them at the allotment every single year. And there are actually 9 different varieties of sweet pea in here. So I'm going to get these sown in January as well. Now, some people sow their sweet peas in the autumn, and some people sow them late winter, early spring. I like to sow them around January, February time. Really, I'm probably going to sow these at the end of January, to be honest. Now, I'm not actually growing broad beans this year, but broad beans are another good one to start in January as well. There, I've got some flowers, some more flowers, which I'm also going to be sowing as well. I'm going to be trying some petunias. I'm going to be starting them at the grow lights at home. One of my favourite flowers. So yeah, they do take a little bit of time to get going, and they do require quite a bit of warmth to get going as well. I tried them a few years ago, and we got some really good blooms. I'm going to be sowing some marigolds as well, because they do take quite a bit of time to get going. Yeah, we had a really good display of marigolds with the tomatoes this year, so I'm going to be sowing those. There are many different flowers which you can sow in January, by the way, guys. This is just a few which I'm growing here. There are many different ones. I'm also going to be sowing some antirrhinums as well, because they do take a while to get going as well. You have to start them off quite early, really, with those. So that is some of the things. I think that's most of it, actually. I think that's everything I'm sowing in January. I'm not going to sow... Oh yeah, sorry, I don't have them here, they're at home, but I am also going to be sowing some mini munch cucumbers as well. Get myself off to a head start with those. So mini munch cucumbers, you can sow greenhouse cucumbers quite early on as well, if you have somewhere to put them, somewhere to keep them protected from the frost. Now, I know a lot of you are probably going to be sowing some tomatoes in January, and that's okay. I'm not going to be sowing my tomatoes in January. I'm probably going to wait until the end of February at the very earliest, because tomatoes grow so fast, and it's alright if you've got somewhere to put them, like a heated greenhouse, So when you do have tomatoes that are really big in February and March, you do have a place to keep them protected from the frost. But for me, I have unheated growing areas. So I like to have a tomato plant that's a good size, ready to go out in April really at the very earliest, because I don't have anywhere to put them. So it's the slower growing things which I'm going to get started off early at home, like peppers, aubergines, onions, sweet peas. I've got a few flowers here which will take quite a bit of time to get going, like petunias. I was going to sow some geraniums actually. I might still get some of them and sow some of them in January. If you live in a mild region like we do, you can probably get away with planting some garlic in January as well. If your ground isn't frozen, maybe under cover, like in a polytunnel. Like my garlic, I actually planted a bit more garlic a few weeks ago in the polytunnel, and they're growing away really nicely. So you probably could get away with sowing them in January. So I think that sums up the what you can sow in January video. Like I said before, there are more things which you can sow in January, but this is just some of the things which I'm sowing. But yeah, I'm interested to know what you guys are sowing in January, so please let me know in the comments below what you're growing, because I'd like to learn a few things as well. I don't know everything, I'm still learning just like you guys are. And I'd also love to know as well, how do you guys grow your onions? Do you grow them from seeds or do you grow them from sets? I grow them from seeds now every single year because I think there's more benefits to growing onions from seeds than from sets, and I may do a video on that actually, discussing the differences between seeds and sets. I may even do an experiment this year and plant a few sets in February, March and compare the differences actually. Yeah, let me know in the comments below what you're growing in January, and I will see you in the next video, probably in the new year. I hope you all stay safe, have a happy new year, and I will see you in the next one. Happy gardening and stay safe.